Good morning. Good morning. My name is Victoria McMahon, and I'm an advocate with the Language of Consciousness Institute. And today, good morning. My name is Victoria McMahon, and I'm an advocate with the Language of Consciousness Institute. And today, good morning. My name is Victoria McMahon, and I'm an advocate with the Language of Consciousness Institute. And today, good morning. What's going on? God, that's weird. Okay, let's try this again. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Victoria McMahon, and I'm an advocate with the Language of Consciousness Institute. And I asked, or I'm not sure, Liz may have asked for this conversation to happen. So Liz, go ahead and introduce yourself too.
I'm Liz Geyer, and I too am an advocate for the Language of Consciousness Institute. I'm here having a conversation this morning with Victoria.
So we started having a conversation, and we decided to invite you to join us in the conversation to go a little deeper. We're going to take a few moments to get ourselves present. So feel free to join us, taking a nice deep breath. And feel how your breath moves in and out of your nostrils as you just begin to welcome the mind's attention to breathing. We do this invitation into our breath all the time without thinking about it. Notice how it's different when you actually engage in a relationship with your breath, with the winds that move the body. Feel how the wind moves from outside in, and how it may swirl or flow or expand inside and back out. And notice for a moment that feeling of taking a slower, longer, deeper breath. Can you feel how the winds of the breath widen you out on the inside? That feeling of filling in all the little creaks and crevices, the nooks and crannies. Some of them may be a little tight, and you might feel the body just do a little adjustment naturally, like you didn't think about it. You just watched how the body responds in relationship to the breath. And notice what shape you settle into after a little bit of kind of just stretching or pulling this way or that way. And then observe for a moment. Do you feel the breath fill the top part of your body? the lower part of your body. Like maybe your belly button is that midpoint. And just sense the inhale. Is it in the top? Is it in the lower? Is it more on the left side of you or the right side of you? Do you feel more forward in the breath? More back and down? These last few breaths, do you feel your spine getting taller? You getting longer through the legs into the earth? Do you feel the belly filling out more on the inhale? Do you feel the complete depth of the exhale? Last couple of breaths. Notice that sense of being in yourself. From just being in relationship to your breath for a few minutes, to how your breath shapes your body, and the effect that it may or may not have on your thinking. What the feeling is that is present for you. Just kind of capture this kind of total image for a moment. And notice for yourself. And Liz, I invite you to notice too. I'm noticing, like, what's the quality of my experience of me right now? Like I really feel a settledness and a calmness, but I also feel this kind of bubbling up of interest and intrigue with, I don't know where our conversation will go. We've kind of talked a little bit about what it means to become an observer of our own being. And so maybe we start there from this slowed down place. What's like bubbling for you?
Well, I just really noticed in the centering breaths that an expansion occurred. And I could feel the toroidal field. So the breath, incoming breath, just went top to bottom, then side to side. And with each breath, it expanded out. So,
okay, so it's more of an expansion outward for you, like the width of you became more present.
Yes. And then the length just anchored and rooted as well. So yeah, that was lovely. It was lovely. Usually I close my eyes, but I wanted to see what would happen keeping my eyes open this time. So
it's interesting, the difference, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I usually get visuals, and I still got the visuals. So I could, as I was focusing, I could see the toroidal field coming in. I could see the roots going down. And we had been talking earlier about this experience I had on a lake where the wind came in to greet me, and I had this big in-breath and expansion, and I could see myself in my red coat on the lake, and then feeling the expansion of the breath, expanding my being here now.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
You know, and what strikes me about that is how we often tend to close our eyes to try and calm ourselves. And so for me, it's like this going inward feeling. And like you said, the images would come to you. But what I find interesting is that in keeping your eyes open, you had the inner relationship with the imagery, and you were also outwardly, peripherally, probably, I'm going to make a guess. For me, I notice the window and my view out my window that I have, and I notice the artwork behind me as I'm paying attention to the inner experience of my body and the invitation of the breath and the body to have relationship. I'm also in relationship to the world at the same time. I wonder, just like, say what that's like for you.
Yeah, definitely. I've had training in I'm a sphere operator with this community in Dominher, Italy, and so we learn how to, just what you said, to include it all. So to include what's in front, but there's a soft gaze there. So for me, sort of like when you're taking the picture and you want to take a picture of the person right in front of you so they're clear. And then there's a softer background in the landscape behind you. So that's kind of how I felt, and just including it all. And I had to include sound as well, because there was sound going on. Someone sneezed in the background. And so you learn to pay attention to all of that, and only just to include it, not necessarily to see it as a distraction. And you just invite that in with everything. And to me, it becomes this beautiful, colorful ribbon of energy that's kind of swirling around. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. I love how you said that, though, that you can pay attention to also to what's around you, and then let that envelop you.
Yeah, which for us as being advocates for the Institute is that quality of observing and allowing or inviting the observing template that we explore ourselves through. And what was really interesting for me in my observing that included itself is when you were talking about the soft gaze. I immediately had this experience in my eyes of the softening to allow what's outside of me to just kind of join in a soft way, like it comes into my eyes. And I know that feeling of coming in as more of a depth of observing. And then my eyes start to, what I call, melt. And some people might say, oh my gosh, is she going to cry? She's tearing up. And for me, it's a melting of a merging kind of feeling that everything is included. And the observer of me is watching how the body is in relationship and how the feeling aspect of me is connecting into that body relationship. And then the thought is, oh, I'm melting. And then somewhere in the back of my thinking mind goes, the Wizard of Oz. Yeah. And I'm just, and so then I'm like, okay, I've included thinking into this observing. And I just kind of immediately in that observing moment start to wonder, observing the thought of the Wizard of Oz has me be present too. I'm like, I don't know, what did that make you present to? Let's just play with the template for a minute.
Yeah, present to the beauty of whimsy. So whimsy as we're observing, but don't put the in there. Being present,
including whimsy.
Yes, being present.
So being present to whimsy has opened me up into Oh, I just love how when you and I get together, play happens. Want to finish it?
Yeah, opened up into how I love when we get together. Play happens, has me have um, a joyful exchange in the reciprocity of our being together. Reciprocity is one of my new favorite words. So,
And my body heart space just went into the melt.
yes.
So my eyes have been melting. Now my heart is beginning to melt, and just feeling that connection that you and I as friends and colleagues have this place that my heart can actually just let more in. I'm really present to that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I got chills all over. So that's how my whole system response uh, informs me. You know, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
And what I feel is kind of organically, naturally happening from our conversation is now we're moving into being with one another in a way that we weren't when we started this conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, can you feel a different quality in yourself?
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah. Like I was talking about before, the softening but it's a dance, like it's a dance of energies, but the energies are now melding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And you know what's interesting is I had this thought that popped in along with that is that we're sitting in a streaming platform, and yet I feel like we're sitting together having a cup of tea in the same room essentially, but we're states away from one another.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I feel we're on the screen with each other, but it's like the exchange just comes through the screen. So it
Yeah.
does feel like we're sitting together. That's really neat.
Yeah, and what's that about? What really is that when we notice that we feel that deeper connection, that sense of being fully present with one another?
What's that about? Yeah. Um,
It's a good inquiry, isn't
it
it?
is, yeah, because there's this energetic exchange that's, well, let's go Star Wars, right? Telepathic. It's Star Wars, but that's what we think of.
So we could try and explain it,
Yeah.
which is kind of like our natural gig mentally, is to try and explain what that's about.
Yep.
And I think there's a quality in the observing being of oneself that doesn't have to rush to that.
Exactly.
That can slow down and just simply be with oneself. So my experience of being in this may be a little bit different than yours, that your body may register, like you've said to me before, I really register the resonance in my solar plexus. Whereas for me, it might come in other parts of my being, or it might be an emotional quality that really rises to the surface. And I like the idea of creating and developing all of those capacities to really feel the fullness, like you were talking about before, the expansiveness and that quality of expansiveness in our being.
Yeah, definitely. When I'm observing my being, whatever I'm doing, I'm noticing this now, more expansive quality. Like I can feel there's a rush of energy in my legs now that wouldn't have been there before. Yeah, and um, and there's just this sweetness too. There's this sweetness of life that's coming in that to me is what we've termed broader, deeper, wider, that wouldn't have been there had I not been sitting, at least right now, with you, observing how we're being.
So, yeah, so I want to switch gears a little bit, but I'm still curious, the broader, deeper, wider.
Yeah.
Is there like a particular place in your body that you really register that being broader, deeper, wider of yourself?
In the heart.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And for me, that's
I'm
new.
feeling it in my face right now. So this is what's so beautiful is we all feel different registers at different moments. And you know, one of the reasons that we wanted to chat together is that we've been in this conversation with a group of people immersing in the creation templates and exploring, observing being in ourselves in community. And it wasn't too long ago that you had commented to me that the way in which we incorporated movement with being connected to our observing nature really pinged you or landed you into a different state of being. And I just would love for you to share more about that.
Yeah, it was a huge aha. We've been doing another piece of work with the Newfield organization on coaching, and they brought in body dispositions and the fact that you know to be all inclusive as a being, you have to have your body involved and your emotions and with language. And that really floated my boat, because in observing we're using language, but we're also bringing the body in. And so this movement that we all created brings the body aspect in, but also for me, really deepened the ability to feel, to have the emotions come up. And it slowed down, helped me slow way down as I was observing. It's really enriched my practice. So before, I was talking to Victoria a little earlier, before, when I would write, I'd start writing and I could feel the language, interestingly, coming through my arms. That's just the way I registered it. The language would come in through my arms, and I can write an observing being in just a few minutes now, right? But what this movement practice really encouraged me to do is just to slow down and enjoy the multitude of emotions and sensations in the experience. Why am I just whipping an observing being out so quickly, kind of thing. So now it's become a quieter, slower practice, and it allows the body to relax into its being.
So do you want to play again?
Sure.
Take your hands and move them kind of close to one another and go back to your attention on the breath. Just like we did, inviting the winds, feeling that state that might return that much more easily from where we started before. And just begin to notice the space between your palms. This is that observing the space between my palms has me be present too. Anything you're present to, Liz?
Connection to form.
Connection to form. Being present to connection to form has opened me up into, I feel the magnetic pull between my palms.
opened up into, I feel the magnetic pull in between my palms has me have a new register for connection.
Wow. So let's kind of take it out a little bit. Still feel the connection.
Yeah, definitely.
Bring it back in. And now let's just move, pulsing that. Slow and easy. Notice if you forgot to breathe while you were doing the move.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting how
Yeah.
it's like observing, I lose connection to my breath when I start moving, right? Has me be present too. Whoops. Yeah. And what is so delicious is that we can, like you talked about before, observe the periphery. Like maybe it's the hands that feel like the periphery, this movement, and yet we're including our experience of it, right? Exhale and bring it back in. And feel the quality, the state of observing yourself and how you're being now. Did it shift in any way?
Yeah, there's I'm seeing a lot of color,
Yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
energetic ribbons of color, and that's which is new.
And then let it lay down. And notice how you did movement in the observing. And it expanded the magnetic layers of colors. I was like, wow, that's beautiful languaging of how your state of being has shifted. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is. And
So
just more
I
relaxed.
think my experience that I would want most of us to know is there's this tendency that we have that we think movement has to be this really particular, expansive, like precision or complex kind of thing for us to be able to get somewhere, if you will. And really, it's what you were saying. When I slowed down and I just felt the movement of myself, my breath is the movement. It expanded into my hands. And then I felt my whole being expand. That's really what I think is the richness of becoming yourself and the fullness of who you are, is that you slow it down and you pay attention to how you do move in yourself, with your breath, with your body, with your emotions, with your mental language, one thought to the next. What do you find yourself paying attention to? And that's the practice in life. For me, that's what I love most about living, is living from that place through my whatever activity I'm moving with. What pings for you in that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as you were talking, I was remembering one of the last exercises I did, and I could, nothing was coming, so I was just doing this, doing this, and doing this. And then I went to, I'd seen people in conversation who I sense want the conversation to go faster, and they go like this. And so I experienced that. I also see, and I do this myself sometimes, when that I'm trying to bring the body into a conversation with myself or someone else, and I do this. So I need the sensory input. So sensory input is very important, and I think we leave it out.
Yeah, so it could be sensory input like this, or it could be sensory input like this. It's play with and see what you're interested in, what you observe yourself doing naturally, and then the deeper observing being, who you're being throughout your day could get really interesting in the practice of creating fullness for yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
So one of the reasons, we have just a few minutes left, one of the reasons that we wanted to come and just have a conversation about this is that we as advocates invite you to explore with us in the way that we explore together and offer exploration out into the public, to come and join us. And we're finishing up the One Immersion series with some of the templates that we've been doing. I have a feeling there'll be another one after the first of the year that's scheduled through the Language of Consciousness Institute. And then as well, I'm joining one of our other colleagues in co-facilitating the observing and the observing being templates. Like, we played with the observing template together, and we use movement, and we write the templates, and we presence and explore what it means to embody those templates more deeply in our physical, emotional, mental, full language system. So we wanted to make sure that you knew about it because it is in January. So you have time to arrange your schedule to invite this into your life in January, the beginning of a new practice for you for the first of the year. And the link is on the website at loc-institute.com. And so you can go there and contact us, and we'll send you information about it. And the dates are the January 9th and 16th. It's 2 2-hour sessions for the series. So we have enough time to really explore deeply with the whole community. And we invite you to come and join us and play in the whimsy of observing yourself. Anything for you that you might say to close us out, Liz, about how this experience has shaped you, and why someone might want to come and play with us?
I just, it's just a whole world of a whole new world for me of relaxation, one, and a new curious wave of energies just entered my body now. So there's, come and be in the curiosity of being with us, trying something new.
Yeah. And getting to know yourself and being in a community that creates the safety and belonging and place for you to be who you are and discover who you are, that plays ways in which you may not have known before, and just adding to the fullness of who you are in your life. Beautiful. Well, thanks for coming and playing today. It was a beautiful conversation.
It was really fun being with you.
Yeah. Have a great rest of the day, everyone.